Let's just notice. Let's notice the beingness that doesn't change with age. And again, what's your default flavor, feel, tone, vibration of that? Our friend Dave will often speak of it as the headless way. And I imagine there's a sense of spaciousness there, or an emptiness, a silence, a stillness, an openness. This beingness for you, what is your default of it? It's just one flavor that we get from Dave. What's yours? I've heard Jack speak of an equanimity, more of some of the Buddhists speak of this, an equanimity, an absolute. What's yours? And then sometimes here we speak of it as this welcoming, this that it has a flavor of love, of nurture, of acceptance. It's a yes. What I am is yes. It's a love, a welcoming, a care that's here. Could we try that on just for a moment as this intrinsic nature, this that doesn't change? And maybe for some of us, it requires what Rupert Spira calls a little concession that no, no, Sid, this beingness is just the openness. It is just the equanimity. It is just the emptiness. See if we can find it as this welcoming, this love, this tenderness. Maybe there's a reason we hear all of these songs and all it is love. It is love. We are love. And what's the difference when we're being that? What's it like? See if we can feel it, almost like a tone that we're playing together. When this loving yes becomes more prominent, the, the, the feel of the space, the beingness amongst the four of us as love. And then let's just notice, what's it like to be love? What's that like for what arises in us? What's that like for the parts, the thoughts? Is there a sense of everything that Jack, Dave, Tara, and Sid, they just get to soak in love? Everything that arises gets to soak in love. Then just gently, let's move back. Let's move back to let's move back to the spaciousness. Let's see if that can all fall back to the spaciousness, to stillness, to emptiness, air, space. And how's that different? See if you can feel it. See if we can feel it. Like the tone changes, the tone, the music, the sound, the vibration of our space as we are this emptiness, this openness, with the four of us, the space. If someone joined us now, they would feel this group is different than it was a minute ago. What's it like for your system, for your body to vibrate as that, to be that? And then what's it like for our parts to come and just have this infinite openness? the spaciousness. What's it like for the personal to be met and held in that, as perhaps as that? Gently, let's try on another. Because they say, the Heart Sutra, they say emptiness is form, form is emptiness. What if we go into more of a density of form as this beingness? What if there's a sense of falling into the density of our bodies, the density of form? Sometimes they call this the ground of being, the primordial ground of being. It's a very different feel, right? The tone of the sound changes, it deepens. The ground of being, where if we, in our minds, if we noticed our rooms, instead of the rooms, just everything dissolving into spaciousness, it would be the form, the fullness of this form, the fullness of our bodies as form, as density. You know, notice my voice, it deepens as I speak of this. The sense of earth, groundedness, this ground of being. We're no longer the empty spaciousness. We are the ground of being. What's your version of that? How does that arise in you? How do you know that? So they speak of this as this full embodiment, as this. Nothing needs to dissolve what we are. This density is this. Form is emptiness, emptiness is form. To try it on as form. And lastly, for some, this one can get more uncomfortable because the being fully embodied here, in some of us, we're more intimate with the contractions in our system. There's more a sense of feeling them in this. And this can be a more uncomfortable flavor of beingness. And let's gently open back up, fall back into the spaciousness, perhaps the headless way, the emptiness, the openness, boundaryless, infinite space. In my system, there's even an experience of a little bit of relief as it goes back to that. What's that like in you? Fall back into the spacious emptiness. What's it like for your parts? What's it like for what arises? Let's just try on two more. From here, what's it like to move to a sense of knowing, the clarity? There's just knowing and clarity here. Knowing. For some, this is a more masculine flavor of beingness. Knowing. It's like we hear this if someone asks you a question, what is awakening? What is peace? What is love? And you're speaking from knowing, it's not the linear mind, it's this place of knowing. What's it like to be this knowingness, to be this clarity? To be the clarity, the knowing. And we've all experienced this from you when you've spoken from your knowing, when we've given each other satsang in this group. What's it like to be the knowing? What's it like to let that have the body, to let the body resonate as this knowing? lastly, what's it like for your system? What's it like for parts and thoughts to arise where there's just knowingness here? There's just clarity. Okay, then let's gently, we can open back up to to the spaciousness, to the headless way, to the openness, to the space. We open back up to the space together. And let's just do one last flavor of this particular map of our nature. What's it like again to go into the openness? What's it like to be that? And this last one is innocence. What's it like to be innocence? Innocence. A return to innocence, or the innocence that never left. What's the flavor of innocence? Is it joy? Is there a bubbling of life? Is there a sense of play or flow? What is innocence? And can you find it as a flavor of our intrinsic nature? Perhaps this form and emptiness. Emptiness is form, form is emptiness, innocence. And lastly, as I use this word, could it be that this innocence has no opposites? That it just is innocence. It's very nature, intrinsic nature, innocence. And then as we move towards close, maybe just let your system of those different flavors just go back to what your default is. What's your system's default of beingness? Or where does it pull to right now of those? It's like, wow, this is the one that feels really good for my system, for my parts. But what's it like to, lastly, all of those different flavors, the spaciousness, the love, the groundedness, the innocence. Do you have a part? Do you have a part that's trying to make sense of all of that? Is it like a part, an intellectual part, an interpreter, understanding part? It's like, whoa, what's it like to compare? Do you have a comparing part, comparing the experiences? Do you have one that's kind of mapping it or comparing it to other maps or comparing it to your experience? Or do you have a critic part that's like, I don't think that's my intrinsic nature. Can we notice the beauty of the theater that's happening in your system?